A pleasant good afternoon to you, Dr. Friday. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, everything that normally say. And welcome to 2019 on the Newtimes program. A change is going to come. So
well, this morning, but you know, it's really people going back to school. Good. Let me just start the proper way. Good morning to everyone, and I want to say thank you again for all the support you've given to us. Those people who are throughout the length and breadth of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, from Fancy in the north to Ashton Unionella in the south. And for those in the diaspora who have been with us over the past year, who wished us well during the holidays, and who are going to be with us during 2019. I wish you well, and I wish our country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, well. I know what it will take for St. Vincent and the Grenadines to have a wonderful 2019. I think all of our supporters and most of the people in this country know what it will take to bring a happy and fulfilling 2019 to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And believe it when I tell you that we are working very hard to bring about the change in this country that is so badly needed. And for all of those who have been working diligently, this is not time for us to be hesitant or doubtful or, you know, feel that it's time for somebody else in the struggle to go on. Because I know some people, they call me, and you know, sometimes they feel a little bit pressed by the fact that they seem to be carrying a heavy load. All of us are carrying the load that we need to do for our country, and so let us continue to be hopeful. Let us continue to work smart and to be diligent and to work for our country, and that is what we are doing. We're starting the process here. For those persons throughout the Christmas season, I know I've been around, I've seen you know, many people that are enjoying the festivities and are now preparing to go forward into 2019, and we have some major things. I think this is going to be a momentous year for us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because there's such a groundswell for change that is building in this country, that the people are waiting for the opportunity, and we hope that this will come very soon. As you know, we are approaching in January. Normally the calendar is dominated by the budget and the estimates that are coming up later this month. We had a busy December, as you will recall, Bert, because we had to go to Parliament on two occasions. We debated the marijuana bills. We debated some other legislation that was necessary, the financial legislation that was had to be done before the end of the year. So we had a busy time during December, and we did our duty by the people, but we also had our duty to do in the communities, which is part of our role as a representative, to go out and to meet people and to be a part of the various things that were happening around the Christmas season. And I know that many of our candidates were very busy during that time. Certainly I was, you know, up and down, and I had a great time, but it's time now to go back to our regular programming, so to speak, here on the radio, but also in our communities, to build that support that we have been getting all across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The work that we're doing is productive. It is building support for the New Democratic Party, for our candidates. It is building support for change, and we must continue to do so. During this January, as I said, the estimates Parliament, when the Parliament was adjourned, ultimately prorogued, we were told that a date for the Parliament restarting had not been specifically set. It was adjourned sine die, that's the expression, meaning that there was a date that the Prime Minister had said that he was working with January 23rd, but it could be I suppose some later date. But we are preparing for the estimates as the first major document that comes before the Parliament, and You know that we in the New Democratic Party, we take that work very, very seriously. And our candidates, our parliamentarians are preparing for that debate, and we always hold the government accountable during that process. And following that, of course, the debates will speak about the budgetary proposals that the government will put forward. What I will say, Bert, and this is something that the government must be on notice with, is the last 3 budgets that they've increased taxes on the people of this country.
True.
And this is something that they cannot continue to do because it is driving the people and the economy of this country into the ground. And so I hope, I'm putting them on notice, that this is not a time for the government to be sort of feathering its own nest by taking money out of ordinary people's pockets and helping their own finances. This is a time for them to be coming up with bold new ideas to stimulate the economy, to create growth and development in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and by that measure, increase the tax base so then government's own revenues will increase. You can't just simply say because we have the power to do it that we're going to take more money out of people's pockets. That's what they've been doing over the last several years. And we've complained about this, we've drawn people's attention to it, but we don't have to point it out anymore because the people feel it. They feel it where it hurts in their pocket. So this is something we are going to be very much on the alert. But what we want to see, most of all, is that there is an appreciation for the dire economic circumstances of this country, and that there is leadership that is being provided at the level of government to create opportunities for investment and opportunities for employment for the people in this country. You know, that is something that we've been speaking about all through the last year, Bert. When we had the walk from Fitzhugh to town and from Rabaca to town, jobs, you know, was one of the key elements there. And jobs is related to directly to the economy, to investment, to economic growth, and so on. That is what is needed to be focused on, not just the government's own, their own fiscal position where they want to make sure that they look good because they have money to spend and they don't have the economic base to sustain it. Taxing the people at every budget turn does not create wealth. That basically, it helps government's finances, but it hurts everybody else. And what is being done with the money, if it's invested in productive activity, you should be able to see it down the road where jobs are being created and opportunities are being generated. That is not happening either. So we are, we feel that this is a time when new ideas for development, economic development of the country, that's what is needed, and that the government should be on notice that this is what we are going to be pushing come the estimates and the budget debate. Because people in the country, I mean, they can't be taxed anymore. They can't feel that whatever government wants, government gets, because simply they have the power to do so, the legal authority to do it. There is also a moral requirement that you have to, you know, let people also prosper and to generate the means of their own survival and for their family's well-being, and that is not being done now. So those are some of the things we have on the agenda. But as you know, of course, when we get into February, we have the petitions that are still scheduled for the trial for the February 11th. Mm-hmm. There is a hearing sometime later this month, I believe on the 24th, if I'm not mistaken, for a status hearing. Those are things that are still on the agenda, and I will consult with lawyers in the matter to make sure that we are ready to do what is necessary to prosecute these matters, and any opportunity, the first opportunity to have the trial done, that we are ready and fully ready to do so. And I have no doubt that that will be the case. So those are two major things that are on the agenda for the next several weeks in the activities of our party. Of course, we are going to be going out to meet the people. We did quite a lot of this during the holiday season. That's a natural part of it. But I have always and continue to encourage my colleagues, the representatives, the candidates, the caretakers, to get to know your constituents, get to know your community. This should be anything that arises there. You should be somebody who can represent a positive point of view on behalf of your constituents. That is something that we are going to be doing more and more of. But this year, not just myself, as you know, we've had a program of walkabouts and so on. These are things that we are going to continue, and not just for myself, but also for other candidates, that they will be doing that more and more in their constituencies. It's very, very important if you want to represent people to understand what the circumstances are. And that is the rationale behind it. You want to be a good representative. And when you're a good representative, people will support you because they know you're looking out for their interests. So that is, again, what we will be doing throughout the length and breadth of this country. I look forward to 2019. I think it's going to be a momentous year for us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to be a part of it. I invite all the people in this country, to be a part of it. Let us bring about a change for the better. Let us make things better in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is my duty. It's my promise to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But I need everybody's help that we can do it together. That's our approach.
Definitely some good thoughts as we move forward into 2019. In terms of the budget, as we go forward a bit, go back, there have been criticism, especially from the New Democratic Party, that the budget seemed to be an academic process where you just move 2018, you put in 2019, you adjust a few figures, and that it does not really reflect serious thought into the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and job creations and these things. You know that election could come at any time, or we're getting closer to the official date, so to speak. Do you envision that there are going to be any really meaningful changes to the
Aleppo doesn't change its spots, but I mean, we have had many, many years of ULP administration. There are things that they have done, there are things that they have promised to do, and they have failed to do, and then much of what they have done have, those things have not generated the increase, because ultimately what you want is to see an improvement in our living standards. Not that you have big pretty buildings here and there. You want to know that people are feeling better in their lives, that they can take care of the healthcare needs, the normal healthcare needs, that they can look after their families in the way that they're used to, and that they most of all have an expectation, a realistic expectation that their lives will improve going forward. That is what hope is. If you think that things will get better, that you can be part of it, then people are motivated to work. Their energies are released and so on. If you feel that no matter what you do, you'll still be sliding behind, that is a loss of hope. That is a failure of leadership. And I'm afraid that that is where we are now in the country, which is why I'm optimistic that the people in this country want to see us bring about a change in government, to bring about a change in the country. That is what is required. And I am expecting, of course, there's going to be an avalanche of promises from this government, because now, they try and do everything that they can to try and impress people, to say, well, listen, these are the things that we are going to do. And you're going to have a shopping list of all kinds of things that you're going to hear they're going to accomplish, during this year. All kinds of promises of things that they're going to do. But I ask the people to look and see, well, not just the promises, but by now, if you've been in government for so long, you should have a record of performance that improves the lives of people, that businesses are doing better, that people are finding employment, that young people have hope that they can go to school and come out and find a job in this economy, that farmers have opportunity to plant and to sell, that the fisher folk, they have opportunity to reap and to sell. All of these things need to be done. And right now, I expect that they're frantically trying to figure out, what are the things that we can do to hook and catch people? Where are the shiny objects that we can put there to dazzle people, so that they will say, oh yes, let us do this again. But I don't think that's going to happen, Bert.
So, as you say, different day, same situation in terms of that. Dr. Fred, I want to go back to the whole I know. Let me say to the callers, we're not quite ready for you yet, especially the Magic Jack line. When that ring, I don't seem to be able to get it down until. But
no, you're the technology
yes,
man.
Yes, trying to get it organized. We had 2018 December, so to speak. We had Synkit's vote of no confidence being brought by, of all people, if you excuse me for saying that, Dr. Denzel Douglas,
imagine that.
Who for ages deny, the opposition at that time
from having
that
a motion
privilege.
debated in the parliament.
We have some serious development in Guyana.
In Guyana government,
which also have a one-seat majority. We saw the change, and yet the government has been going to different angles. Now they're into the court. They're trying to
Well, I mean, so long as they are using what are the constitutional processes, you can't, fault them for that. That's all we ask here in St. Vincent too. If you have an approach that says that this is what you're supposed to do, and when there's a motion of no confidence, and the various parties exhaust those options, then that is fine. And the system works the way it is. I mean, even in the UK, you had a vote of no confidence within the party, the Conservative Party, against Prime Minister May, and she prevailed handsomely in that. And then, these are part of our democratic process. But I think what you're driving at is the subtext of that question is that in St. Vincent, we had a motion of no confidence around this time last year, and it was made a mockery of really in the parliament by the decisions of the ultimately the speaker, but by the arguments of Gonzalez and the government party to say that this matter can't be debated in the way it was presented, and that you're entitled. I mean, let's say in Guyana they said that you were entitled to change the motion of no confidence to edit it to the point where it said that it's a vote of confidence in the government. What consequence would it be if what it passed or failed when the Constitution has no provision for that? This is something that is very serious attack on our democracy, and that's why we stood up very strongly against it when it happened there in St. Vincent. And it's something that still is yet to be corrected, and will have to be corrected if we are going to live to the words of our Constitution, which says that, when you have at least 3 elected members of Parliament sign the motion of no confidence, then it's presented properly before the Parliament. In this case, we had 7. That is presented before the Parliament and ought to be debated. So these are some of the defects that we've had in our system, and they have never been a problem for us in the past, But here you have a government that feels now under threat, and they will do whatever they think is necessary or possible in their circumstances to prevent the threat from being carried out. That is to say that the people will vote them out. That is essentially what they are worried about. But we are trying to push it as quickly as possible to a vote, if not in the court, then in the court of public opinion. I've always said when we had the petitions in the court that we can resolve it by having the petitions heard expeditiously, as the Court of Appeal had said, or we can resolve it by saying, okay, fine, there is a taint on the government, there's a cloud hanging over the government that the matter should go back to the people to decide it. If the people have spoken, then we need to know clearly what they have said.
But persons, there are discussions, persons saying that in Guyana, the vote of no confidence and the way it went was unexpected. There are talk and whispers in St. Vincent that there a likely chance that there are persons within the present administration who may be willing to side with the opposition in terms of vote of no confidence. Any intention to revisit?
Well, I'm not going to. I mean, these are strategic decisions, as you might know, and whatever we do, this will come when we feel that it's strategically advantageous to do so, where it has, where the merit of it is transparently clear, and we're not going to sort of preview that here at this stage, but certainly we have that right, and we have, I think, all the members of that government side, they should support a motion of no confidence, because they've been failing miserably, and it's something that we feel that the people of this country, when they have a chance, they will have a vote of no confidence in the government itself and cause new elections.
So once they vote with their conscience, they really should vote against themselves.
That is my view, because I believe
based
that
on the mandate.
Listen, man, I met a fella yesterday, but you know, he tells me that he's a die-hard ULP supporter. He doesn't live here, but he said, you know, yes, he has supported the party historically, but he said that it's time for a change, and he would wish to see that the government changes, because he's looking at the bigger picture, which is what is happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and he has seen that over the past number of years that we have been slipping backward. You know, higher unemployment now than we had in 2001. Businesses, you know, which have been around since you and I were children, have been folding up. You know, people can't pay their rent in Kingstown. You have businesses can't pay their rent in Kingstown. Everybody going to work, but it's all a pretense, because there's no business being conducted. And this is something that we can't accept as being normal, because if you think that is normal, then you don't really have an economy, you don't have a country, you don't have any basis for saying that you are, you know, a national entity, because you're not looking after your people. The first priority of government is the security of its people, physical security, and then you provide opportunities for people to realize their own expectations and dreams. And that's where the economy comes in, that's where education comes in. You must have a proper healthcare system, because when you know that, Bert, you get sick and your priorities change very dramatically. You may have plans to do all sorts of things, but you have to have the means to provide basic health care for the people, at least. And that is something that we think very strongly, and we will revive the National Health Insurance plan that NDP had said towards the end of the last NDP administration, and had done some considerable work, had gotten economic analysis. I think Professor Theodore had done some work for the NDP on the feasibility and what it would take to have something like that done. That is necessary, because you see too many people. You know, I mean, you become ill and you're basically at the mercy of friends and members of the community. You know, people go around begging for assistance here and there, and it's not sure that it would come. And you know, they're reduced to basically where their family is left to carry the brunt of it. I think a national health insurance program is something that's necessary. And to say that you can't afford it, I mean, somebody has to afford it, because people get sick. You know, it's not like going on a vacation where you can choose to go or not. When you get sick, you don't ask for it, you don't call it upon yourself, and somebody has to pay for it. So one way or another, if we are going to be a productive society, and we're not doing it just simply for the interests of those people who are sick, you know. It's important as humanitarians and as human beings, as Christian people, that we care for our brother and so on, and look after them when they're sick. But it's also very important as an economic function as well, because when people are healthy, they're productive, and you know, you don't have to waste resources and making people healthy when some prevention up front would have done something. One of the big cases in this, and this is something I want us to take up as a party more, is the situation with diabetes. You know, sugar as they call it here. I mean, it is endemic in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You see young people. I consider myself a fairly young person still, but people who, you know, younger than me, have lost limbs, and they are, you know, their productivity is basically come to an end. And that's something that as society, it's a high cost that we're bearing. And it can't be a situation where you say, okay, yes, we must have medication and the proper services within the hospital to take care of people when they become ill, and let's say of diabetes. That's necessary. But we also have to do the prevention, because that is something that, you know, there's a lot of work that can be done at the broader community level to try and prevent the incidents, at least from the numbers from rising, and also from them becoming really serious cases where people have to become amputees at an early age. Those are things that I believe that we can address, and we have to do it as a society. Hypertension is a similar problem. And I believe that all of that is tied in with our plan as well as a New Democratic Party to build a modern medical facility. We said it in our last manifesto in the last election. You remember that the government here now, they're scrambling, saying that they're going to build a modern medical facility, state of the art and all kind of stuff. But the point is, we were doing it because we believed that that is integrally related to having a productive economy. When people don't have to worry about, you know, whether they can go to the hospital to get a checkup, or if they feel something that they can go and get it looked after before it becomes too serious, then that liberates them to use their resources to do other things, other productive things, we hope. And you have to design fiscal policies to steer whatever discretionary income people have into productive activity, investing in things, you know. You have a small boat here, you know. Maybe you could, instead of going out and catching redfish and barracuda now, going out on a day trip, you could invest in a larger boat to try and get into the tuna market. That comes from having resources, having the security to know that you could plan, because you don't have this this likely catastrophic illness, well, not even a catastrophic illness, but any illness in your family that could basically pull you down. These are things that are necessary for a modern economy, for a productive economy. And look at the societies around the world that are successful in that regard. Canada, for example, you know, where healthcare is almost like it's a national right, pretty much, you know. Most developed countries are like Singapore. They took care of education and health first and foremost, you know, ranks #1 in health in the world. Small country like that. And these are things that we can't in St. Vincent say, well, this is beyond our means, that, you know, those are for other rich countries. How do rich countries become rich? We are setting the basis now for saying that we can do better here in terms of our economy. And you can't just have this sort of, you know, ad hoc kind of approach where you build you're going to build a city at honors. Because how is that going to improve people's health and wealth? How is that going to generate income? You know, you're going to build a tunnel on the King Garden. Okay, so to what end? How is it going to create wealth? You've heard me say it before, but if you can't, you have a project, if you can't say how it's going to improve the lives of people, if you can't say how you're going to create opportunity for people, whether it's in employment or investment and so on, then if you can't say it, you don't do it. You don't do it and hope that something magical is going to happen. You don't do
it for political sake?
And you don't do it for political sake. You don't just waste public resources because you have a shiny object that is going to dazzle people and make you look like you are doing something, when in fact, when it comes down to it, you have businesses in Kingstown, you know, renting space that they can't pay the rent, where you have people who have been in business for years and years, have closed down. You have fishermen who can't sell their catch, you know. You have farmers who basically, as I said in my Christmas message, you know, they're farming, they're working very hard, they're very skilled people, but they can't sell their commodities at a price that justifies the effort that they put into it. These are things we have to take care of. If you don't do that, then we don't really have an economy. We can't have an economy just by going abroad and begging for some money and come back and say, look, I have $1 million here, I'm going to build this thing for you. You know, that's not an economy. We have to produce for ourselves as well, and we only do that when we respect the dignity of the people, the right to work, when we respect also their intelligence, we respect their own ability to create opportunities for themselves. You know, that is ultimately what government's supposed to do. Government is not supposed to be this overpowering, know-it-all kind of entity that says, okay, this is where we do, this is where. That's a planned economy, that's a communist style. What you want to do is to liberate those creative, you know, impulses, yes, within all of our people, and you know, encourage and bring, you know, foreign investors or some of our diaspora people to come and to help us here to invest, because it's in their self-interest as well, because they will make a decent living doing it. And in so doing, the whole country floats, you know. And I do believe that there's a lot more that is possible here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that we are simply not doing. And we have to make it better for the people of this country. I am committed to doing that. And we in the Democratic Party know 2019 is going to be a year when you're going to hear all kinds of promises from the government. I think they already started doing that. They're going to do all kinds of things. The question you have to ask is, why now? You know? Why you didn't do that last year? Yes, and when you have a budget, you see the budgets they presented in the last couple of years. Most of them are just about taxing and lots of words, You know, they could have been reduced to half the size in terms of the words and promises. And one of them had said a few years back that the budget is not about creating jobs, it's about consolidating. Consolidating what? Their position, their reputation, their own record is what they wanted to sanitize. People don't really care about that. What they want is to say, well, what have you done for me lately? What will you do for me in the future? That is where I want to focus on. You will hear when we do our budget presentations and so on. And that's the, I think those are some of the things that we have to hold the government accountable for.
As you mentioned, you're pleading, if I could use that terminology, to the government that the taxpayers and the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines simply cannot handle any more taxes, and that you're hoping, as you say, a leopard can't change its spot, so that they will provide some relief to persons in terms of the taxes and serious implementation in terms of job creation.
Yes. Well, the thing is, in a budget, the government, yes, you have to look at the fiscal position of government. They have to be able to pay the bills. They have to be able to put aside a little thing for in case there's an emergency, put aside something to invest in capital projects. That's responsible government. This government has not been doing that over the past 15 years. Basically, they've been, running a deficit budget. What they are going to do is try to give the impression that somehow they have all these resources available, that they're going to have this big pot now that they could invest in this and invest in that. And that is something that magically going to transform the economy during this year. I don't see that is going to happen. But they will come to the parliament, and if you think about a budget, you have not two objectives, but two of the objectives that are critical. One is, of course, maintain government finances, because that affects government's ability to borrow and to execute projects, but also to create conditions, probably most importantly, create the conditions in the country for investment and for job opportunities to be created. When you do that, you expand your tax base, because now you have more businesses that are paying taxes. If you make higher dividends, then they're paying more taxes. You have more employed people who are getting a salary, who can pay VAT, who can pay other taxes, and they can invest in their own the homes, repair their roof, the stuff they've been putting off, fix the car or buy a car or something that is going to make them more effective in creating wealth and opportunity for their own families. When you multiply that, you have a community that's doing well. And then you multiply that by the communities and you have a country that is doing well, And that is the approach that I believe is necessary in a budget. What we've had in the past several number of years is that there's this focus on trying to just get money out of the people so that the government can pay its bills. And then what we've seen has happened, and what Mr. Eustace was very, very good at this in his analysis all the time when he presented on the budget, the economic consequence of where government is essentially taxing people into the ground. Increasing public debt without any productive activity to justify that debt. And what we have is now the effect of that is that the economy, you have all these things that they say, we build this, we build that, and so on and so forth. But the ultimate question is, have you created opportunities for people, for employment, for investment, and for the standard of living to improve? And if you can't answer that in the affirmative, then you failed.
And so in this case, we could put a X there.
Definitely, and a big one.
You have also said that 2019 you're going to be continue the program of meet the people, talk to the persons. This is going to be not just yourself, but all
yes.
persons, caretakers, so the persons could look forward to the heirs of the New
yes.
Democratic Party.
And I call it politics 101, but there are two components really. It's in the self-interest of the candidate, the member who is going there, because once you're visible and you show an interest in the people, then you are more likely to get their support. And the other, of course, is to be a good representative. You need to know the circumstances that the people that you're representing, that they live in. and you have to go to the communities. You can't just deal with it by a phone call or secondhand somebody send you a message or you look at it on Facebook or something. You have to go to the communities and meet people, and that is the greatest satisfaction I get, about when I meet people. For me, that is the easy part of this process, because you really, if you're motivated to bring about a better life for the people in the country, once you hear them express themselves, as to what is necessary, you say, all right, we can do this together. We can work, we can do this together. Just let us have the opportunity to work together. And your ideas, my ideas, the means of government, the means and the resources of the individuals, we can do it together. And take it right down to the minutiae, one small little enterprise. I saw a fella, and I made a note of it. When we went up to North Windward, when was it? I think it was in November. We had a function, yes, and did a walkabout up there, and I met a gentleman who was making coconut oil. And yes, and I took his name down, and I just found a note with it recently, and I said, this is the sort of thing. Here's somebody, he is making this product that he sells, and he basically can't keep in stock. So what is preventing him from actually making this into a much more thriving business? If you can sell all that you produce, and sell it at a profit, then that's the basic ingredient of a successful business. What prevents them from becoming more, from expanding? Those are the things that we have to find, those examples and so on, and get them in connection with the capital and the various other kinds of tools that they may need to expand. And it may be that, it may be somebody else who, as I said just now about fishing. You've been fishing all your life. You go out in the morning at 5 o'clock and you come back at 10, 11 o'clock with 100 pounds of fish, and you sell it, and you figure, okay, then you've done something for the day. But that's essentially a subsistence living. Your bank account doesn't grow based on that, because you're paying for gas, you're paying for repairs of engine, and then things ain't cheap. But what you want to do is to say, well, okay, let's try and either with another person, another fisherman, or some other financier, go to the bank and sort of increase the size of the boat, start doing more longer trips. That is something that's now emerging. They do it very well in Grenada and Petite Martinique, but that is something that's now emerging in particularly in northern Grenadines and Bequia, and it's something that we can do in other fishing communities in Calicoa and Barley and so on, Rosebank. Those are things that, again, have the person, they have the skill. Put them in connection with the capital and the markets, and opportunities are created for them to improve themselves. That's what I want to do as government, to talk to people in that way when we go out in the community, so that when we are in office, we can say, I remember these things here. I know that this can make a difference to these people's lives, and if they can make a difference to their lives, they can make a difference to the community around them, and other people may see what they're doing and say, well, if he can succeed at this, I believe I can do it, and we must be willing to share and to teach one another how we can do these things, because especially like in fishing industry, the market there is huge. There's agricultural commodities now that we could be doing that we are not really taking full advantage of it. What's happening in the cocoa industry, the small farmers, the persons who were encouraged many years ago to replant. Not everybody is taking the initiative because it was risky for them. The way in which the thing started so many years ago, it was risky for them, and it has not really presented it initially in a light that would benefit, that the people felt would benefit them. So they've stood back, but it takes time. Once you invest, it takes time for that. It's not like bananas that, within 8 months you can be reaping. This one, it takes a little longer. And so it was more risky from that point of view, because your capital is tied up for a while. Your land is part of your economic assets. And this is something that we have to look at it at the micro level and try and get people who are skilled and able to go out there. What are all the people in the Ministry of Agriculture doing now? They're all trained in bananas, but the banana industry now in this government has basically killed it. So we have to find ways to get all these talented and well-trained people to say, my job is to try and make the farmers of this country productive again. And when the farmers are productive, the country. There's a whole different feel to it, you know. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Bananas doing well was a country that was on the up. You just go around all the communities and see the housing stock in this country. That's Bananas built those. There's farmers, there's the land that created that. How you can create a country, an economy without your agricultural sector being solidly based? You cannot. And so these are some of the things that, you know, over the last several weeks I've been pondering on as we consider the preparation for the budget, but also preparation for taking office in this country, you know, because I am really, really anxious and keen to get that work started.
So persons can look forward not just to a strong opposition, so to speak, but a opposition that will show clear evidence and is ready for good governance.
For leadership in this country. Good governance and leadership. You know, to be strong, you don't have to be loud. People conflate the two. You know? You could be strong, but you don't have to be loud. You don't have to be obnoxious. You don't have to be bombastic. What you have to do is you have to have principles, and your heart, once your heart is in the right place and you have the ideas that you can do it and you're principled, then you will remain firm to your belief and you will work towards them. To me, that is strength. There's strength also in exposing your ideas to other people's criticisms and saying, well, there's a possibility that somebody else may be able to tweak what I say, or may actually have a better idea than mine. But once we decide that this is how we're going to go, then we do it together as a team. I don't have to prove that every idea I have is better than yours. My job, what I think is knowing, basically, what is the better idea, and then to pursue that. And that is something that I think is lacking right now in this administration. They are so close-mouthed about everything, you know. We had a debate the other day in the parliament about the hotel, the loan that they were borrowing from Taiwan to build a hotel. And, you know, they're essentially saying the things that, you know, we can't reveal. I mean, you can't reveal what the design plan is, what the scope of the project is, you know. You can't have a concept that is published that people can say, okay, this is the idea of what they're going to do down there. And then you're asking us to go and give you $50 million to build it. Because they believe they have all the ideas. And it is something that we have to change, transform about this country. It's one of the things that is holding us back, I believe. That we have to transform it. We are not afraid. We are a democracy. We can't be afraid of the opinions of people, because when you are, then you basically would find mechanisms to prevent people from being part of decisions, because you don't value that. You want to be able to just simply have the expedient position of doing what you think is best for the people, rather than having the people decide as part of the process. That is something we want to transform about the way in which our government functions. I think that's an essential ingredient of good governance. That's something we're going to do in St. Vincent and the Grenadines under a new Democratic Party administration. This is why I said that 2019 excites me. There's so many things so many good things we can do in this country, but, you know, people, we just have to believe in ourselves. Don't expect somebody to come and sort of drop something all up and say, here, your life is transformed. That ain't gonna happen. We have to believe in ourselves and do it.
Really, let me come in and answer to you. In that same vein, in summary, what can persons look forward to from the New Democratic Party in 2019, and what do you expect from the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines?
Well, what I want is for people to continue to believe in change, that we can do it. You know, sometimes people get discouraged and they feel, okay, the system is completely rigged against them and all of that. You know, here we have to do it. We have to bring about the change. We have a process by which we can do it, and this is a chance is coming soon for us to do so. And we have to take it with full gravity with both hands, and don't have this sort of a tentative approach as to saying, oh, you know, maybe we ain't gonna make it and so on and so forth. No, we will make it. If you decide you want to make it, we will make it. And no kind of irregularities and so on and so forth will stop us from doing that, because we are aware now of some of the things that went wrong last election. We continue to pursue those in the court, but we also put a measure in place to prevent them from happening. More than anything else, what I want in this year is that for people to believe in themselves, believe in the change that they can bring about. It happens in different countries in the Caribbean. I mean, look in Barbados, you had all the seats basically went to one, to the opposition, well, the new government. You know, people can transform their circumstances. We will do it at the ballot first, and then we will get to work to change the economy of this country, to change our whole disposition, the way in which we view ourselves as being able to change our destiny. That belief, that self-belief can accomplish so much. You know, if you are a cricketer and you go into the end, you always find, you know, you go into bat, and the first few overs you're tentative and so on. That's when you're most vulnerable, because you are you're not sure yourself. Your confidence not there. As you build and so on, you get more confident and you become more fluent in your stroke play and whatever. But as a nation, we've been doing this for quite some time. We've been at the crease for quite some time. So don't feel that somehow that you don't have the ability to do it. You can change government, you can change your lives. We in the Democratic Party, we provide leadership, we provide support, but we believe it is the people ultimately that are in charge, both of the politics and also of their own economic destiny. In this year, that is the message I want to drive home. I think when people embrace that, they will say that is the team we want to support, because they are working for me. They are going to let my expression guide my own progress and guide the development of the nation. And if we do that together, we have a much better chance of succeeding than if we have this high-handed approach where people feel that they could sit in a room and decide for the rest of us how this country is going to be. And then when it doesn't work out, you find all kind of fault, you know, all kind of blame. Look at Buckerman Bay. You know, that is a hotel. What has happened there over the past 2 years, but this was supposed to be a flagship project that was supposed to twin with the Argyle International
And we had
Airport.
so many resumption dates, if I
So
could
many
say that.
resumption dates, you know. It shows that they don't know what they're doing. They criticize Mitchell and NDP so much for Otley Hall, for example. And they have Otley Hall down there just rotting away. I mean, that is a national disgrace, quite frankly. You know? And that could do so much for the economy of this country. But simply because they built their political profile and condemning the NDP and trying to, you know, jail James Mitchell for Otley Hall and all that stuff with their inquiry, you know, and then they can't appear. You know, it seems to be they can't let it appear to succeed. So while they're in office, Otley Hall will never succeed. It's as simple as that. They've had there now so many years, and essentially it's just rotting away. And people, everybody in the boating industry will tell you that the potential is there, because the way the project was conceived, there was nothing wrong with it. It was a very good project in the way it was conceived, and we need to see that it's realized and that the opportunity promised for the people of this country, that those opportunities are realized. We will do that in the NDP. The NDP is the only government can do it, because this government here seems to be afraid of it, because they don't want...
Because if it succeeded, it would look bad in it.
Yes,
basically.
it'll make it look like they just, that they basically did not, they were wrong on the way in which they had attacked the project in the past. We have said that there's a lot of potential there, and that we will do our very best to realize it through the efforts of government, but also by involving private sector persons to make sure that it works. What it matters is that it works productively. That is what matters. And whatever format it takes, whatever it takes to do that, we will be willing to make sure that that happens.
Okay, thank you very